you think about that? Huh? Well, what he tells me is you folks got a lot of work to do. Well, what do I mean by that? I don't know what you did in acting. I said you got a lot of work to do. There you go. We think alike. Okay. I'm spending most of my time trying to promote physical activity. It is a hard job. Since I graduated from college, people have gotten fatter and less fit. Was it me? Did I cause that? But if you look at the line and go, wow. And so we learned a lot more. But yeah, you know, who are the leaders in physical activity in Alabama? You know any leaders? You know any leaders? You know any? Okay. So we don't have any. What does that mean? We have a few, and we have a few people that work really, really hard trying to promote this and so forth. But I do it. How much do I get paid doing it? Zero. How much money do I spend doing it? Good bit. Okay. And so we did have Michelle Obama at the White House, and she promoted physical activity, and she did a good job with the Kids Fit and that kind of stuff. And so, and then Mr. Trump, his ideal of fitness was your body's like a battery. You're born, you have energy, and then as you get older, your battery runs out. Scientists don't go along with that particular concept about the battery and so forth and so on. And so, you know, I'm in fitness. I like some Republicans, some Democrats. So I'm not promoting one or the other, but I'm just telling you what it is. So in the last 4 years, we really had no promotion there for physical activity. And a lot of grants, a lot of money that we have set aside for promoting physical activity is like a lot of things. So we need some leadership, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of leadership we have in the next 4 years with our president in terms of promoting physical activity. Okay. And so I know they've done some stuff now that just provide both groups together and so forth, start to try to do some kind of some stuff. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So we need leadership. And what I want to do, and we've had some really good people, or good students in the past, is you take what you learn, and then you go out in the field, and then they say, hey, Mackenzie's a real smart person. We need people like her out here working in this area, learning PT and promoting physical activity and occupational therapy and so forth, and cardiac rehab, or strength and conditioning. And like Lonnie Maddox is one of my students. He's at Valdosta State. I've got students all over the world. I've got an ex-student in Scotland. She just had a big conference where she brought in 25 of the world's best people and women in physical activity last week. She did that, so I'm proud of her for doing that. But we need people, young, smart people like you, to do what? To change this, right? Okay, to help promote and get people more active. You know what an accelerometer is? Any ideas? Okay, we've done some accelerated stuff in the past. You know what a pedometer is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what's the disadvantage of a pedometer? It only measures what?
Steps.
Straight ahead, right? Steps. Now, What if we went and did Zumba? How many steps are we going to get in? Any Zumbas in here? We got a stage. Anybody want a demo? Okay. With Zumba, you do, I don't know, but you do a lot of other kind of stuff, right? I'm like him, a triathlete. I can go in a straight line. Anything side to side or whatever is ugly. Okay. And so if you do Zumba or whatever, you're doing lateral movements, right? Or transverse plane movements or other kinds of movements. And so you burn energy doing that. But with a pedometer, we're not able to capture that, right? And so we've got accelerometers. And so they help to measure physical activity, movement, straight ahead kinds of things there. We've got an initiative that's been around a while called Exercise is Medicine. And so who's that for? Who are the medicine people? Physicians, right? Physicians are smart people. We've gone to medical school, they spent a lot of years in college and so forth. Some physicians know zero about exercise. Zero. Okay. How many exercise physiology classes have they had? How many nutrition classes have they had? Zero. Okay. And so, be careful. I've seen physicians kill people. I've seen people make them well. So, be careful. Make sure that you're getting good what? Information, good advice. So what is exercise as medicine? That's a program where physicians, whenever a patient comes in, if they need exercise, they should write them an exercise prescription. And we got little prescription pads that say prescription, exercise. They say go out and exercise 5 days a week, 30 minutes at a time or whatever. Any of your doctors ever recommended you go out and exercise? Probably not. But there is an initiative through the American College of Sports Medicine called Exercise is Medicine. One of my good friends, Veronica, that runs cardiac rehab, she's big into it, and what they do is they'll have a day, everybody go walk with their doctor in the hospital, or they'll do workshops for doctors and physicians to try to get them to learn about exercise science and so forth. So it's pretty good. You could take it and you could take the certification and become an exercise medicine professional. Your PT, it might be something to look at or something that interests you. Exercise is medicine there. Now, stakeholders, healthcare providers. Some of our nurses are like the most unfit people in the world. I'm not being critical of these people. I'm just giving you information, okay? And so, we need to get people more active, right? And so we've got healthcare providers, nurses, people work in clinics or whatever. So exercise medicine would be something appropriate for that group, right? Exercise professionals. What's NCCA? That's not NCAA. That's an organization that accredits certification programs. So if you look for a good certification, hopefully it should be NCCA accredited. So if I was going to take an exam through the American College of Sports Medicine, I'd want to make sure that it is NCCA accredited in terms of their accreditation process. So exercise scientists, exercise physiologists, kinesiologists, in different countries they call them different things. And so in Canada, anybody from Canada? What do they call them in Canada? Kinesthesis, something, kinesiologist or something. And they don't call them PTs there. They call them something else. We've had some people go there. Okay. So this would be your group, exercise professionals, encouraged to serve an extension of existing healthcare system. There, because a lot of the healthcare people don't know anything about exercise, so you've got to go in and do what? Fill in, right? and help promote physical activity there. What's the term now for exercise scientist? Called an exorcist. I just heard that. I'm the exorcist, I guess. The community resources. So who in the community would you go to in terms of promoting physical activity? Who do you think?
Well, if it was up to me, I would go to the YMCA because that's where I work.
Okay,
And
YMCA.
they post a lot.
YMCA does a lot of good stuff. They have a lot of good programs. Okay. At one time, when I first got to Montgomery, they had Montgomery Athletic Club, and they had the YMCA, and that was it. Maybe one or two other little small places. Okay. Now they have how many health fitness places in Montgomery?
Good bit.
Tons of them, right? Like Planet Fitness, and something new every day, right? And so lots and lots of places there. So we got more places now, but the YMCA is good because they're traditionally their programs are based upon science. Okay, I think they ought to change the name. Why do you think that is?
Not just for young men anymore.
Yeah, it's not the Young Men's Christian Association. So a lot of non-Christian other people that go to the Y, right? And so, and then they used to have the YWCA, Young Women's Christian Association. And so back in the old days, they used to, you used to get a room at the YMCA. And so when I first went to Tuscaloosa, I stayed in the YMCA. It's like a room with a bed, like a little jail cell or whatever. But you could stay in the YMCA and pay like $10 a night to get a room. Okay. So I don't know if they still do that in any of these big cities or whatever, but it's changed. The Y has changed now. It's more family oriented and so forth. That's the good thing about the Y is because of the family stuff, kids programs and all kinds of programs there. But yeah, you can meet with the city managers in terms of like bike kinds of things. We're always trying to promote through the city and through the politicians and through the people that can make things happen. Because as an exercise scientist, you don't have any resources. So what do you have to do?
Go out and find people who have
Yeah,
them.
you've got to depend on other people, right? And you've got to work with other people, and you've got to promote and deal with other groups or other populations there. Okay. You know this, we talked about this last time. Sedentary behavior based upon met levels is less than what? Less than 1 met, right? Okay, less than 1.5 mets. And so then we've got light intensity and so forth. And so what we do with the survey information accelerometer, we look at sedentary behavior. Now, one of the things I learned in your book is they've got a new major in some of these colleges. It's called sedentary physiology. Anybody want to change their major from exercise physiology to sedentary physiology? Huh? I looked at that and I said, "Give me a break, man. What? This gotten so bad we haven't have a major in this stuff. It's like, I guess exercise not working, so we gotta have something else to deal with there. So crazy there. But here it shows us on a continuum. You know what a continuum is? It goes from one level to the next level. So here we got like sitting, lying. You're sedentary. All of you right now are sedentary. I'm light. Why is that?
You're standing.
Because I'm standing, right? Moving around a little bit, so I'm getting some activity. Okay? And then we have moderate. And then remember the guidelines are for what? 30 minutes per day of moderate physical activity, right? So sometime during the day, if you're not an athlete or whatever, you've got to make sure you get in your what? Moderate activity, right? And then after 6, we get into what? Vigorous. And so that's when you go out and go hard, vigorous running, and weightlifting, and so forth. If you do it hard, you consider it a vigorous activity there. Okay. Now, one thing about your book. Uses statistics. And one thing it does, it gives you lots of numbers. And it just touches on a few things in terms of sedentary behavior and cardiovascular disease. So when you read that information, it gives you some statistics about cardiovascular disease. And okay, screen time was 70% increased risk for cardiovascular disease and so forth. So it gives you all these numbers, and it ends up showing you that what? Sedentary activity is not good for the heart, right? It helps to increase heart disease. If you have a heart attack, you're sedentary or in one of those low fit categories, you've got a lot less chance of surviving the heart attack, right? And it gives you some basic information there and some good information there. It talks about they did studies in head down bed rest, and so they put them in a study that had people lay in a bed and their feet were higher than their heads, and they kept them there for a long period of time, and they wanted to see what happened to their heart. And so, what do you think happened to their heart? Their fitness went down, right? And it decreased the capacity of the ability of the heart to work. Now, what were they trying to emulate when they did that study? Astronauts in space, okay? And so these big, like NASA and so forth, they've got lots of money. So they can take all you people in here, give you so much money, and have you lay in a bed for so many months with your head down and see what happens to you. And so that's a study that they did. Obesity. We know the relationship between obesity and physical activity, right? I think there's a slide here on that, and so find it real quick. Yeah, there it is. What's TEE?
Total energy expenditure.
Total energy expenditure. So what is total energy expenditure? That is,
How much you burn, how much you take in.
yeah, all the calories during the day. So, okay, right now, how are you burning calories? What is burning calories in your body?
Metabolic processes, just to keep organs.
Okay, so your brain uses oxygen, right? Hopefully you're not a jellyfish that has no brain, right? So you need what? Oxygen, right? Your brain's using oxygen. Are your muscles using oxygen?
Not much.
Not much. You can wiggle your toes during class, or push or strain or whatever. So you can use oxygen that way. But you're not using a lot of oxygen. What about the food you ate?
Digestive system. Needs it to
Okay.
work.
So you've got to break down the food. You need oxygen to do that. And what do we call that? We call it the thermic effect of food. Okay. some food is harder to break down. So you burn more calories trying to break it down because it's hard to break down. Protein's hard to break down. So if you go out and eat a steak and then go play your soccer game, where's all that steak gonna, what's all that steak gonna be doing? It's gonna be sitting on your stomach, and it's gonna need blood in order to break it down, right? And so it's going to need oxygen in order to do that. So we call it thermic effect of food. And it takes energy to break down certain types of food. Not a lot, but it takes energy to do that. So we've got, at rest, we're burning calories. Non-exercise kinds of things, we have to burn calories for. But when we look at it, we can measure your total metabolic rate. So how would you measure your metabolic rate?
With the formula?
With the formula. If I was at UAB with my friend Gary Hunter, I could put you in a little chamber, and you could stay in that chamber like a closet, and I could measure how much heat you give off, and then based on the amount of heat you gave off, I could tell how many calories you burned. And then I could get your metabolic rate. And I guess Professor Allegro, she goes into that in her nutrition classes. In terms of metabolic rate, they measure that. There are formulas. The problem with the formula is that all of us are a little bit different. The formula will give you what? The average, right? So one person may be above average, one person may be what? Below average, right? If your body is not very efficient at burning calories, you're going to burn more calories, right? If your body is really efficient, you don't burn many calories. So if you have a resting heart rate of like 50 beats per minute while you're sitting around, and your neighbor has a resting heart rate of 100 beats per minute, who's burning more calories?
They are.
Yeah, the faster heart rate, right? It takes more energy to be faster, right? Okay, if we've got a person in class that weighs 250 pounds and they're 10% body fat, and then we've got another person in class that's 250 pounds, 30% body fat, who's burning more calories? The fit person, right? Because body fat does not need oxygen to survive. This is like putting weights on you, okay? And so the person that has low body fat has more muscle, they have more cells, and they burn more what? Calories, right? So bigger people, you know, a normal female on a diet needs about 1,200 calories a day to live, okay? And so that'd be minimal. If you go less than that, you're gonna do what? Lose weight, right? Okay? You lose weight, you're probably gonna lose muscle, some muscle tissue, and so forth. The average male is about, 2,000 calories per day, right? To keep you alive. If you're a big old giant male, you probably need 3,000 calories a day to keep you alive. So why is it hard for small females to lose weight? Because they tend to have lower what? Muscle mass, right? And so it's hard for them to burn a lot of energy, right? Because it doesn't take a lot of energy for them to move around, okay? It takes a lot of energy for a 300-pound person to move them around, right? And so they're going to burn more what? More calories, right? And so we can look at the person. If you're a personal trainer or whatever, you can look at the person and you say, oh, okay, you're about this size. Your basal metabolic rate is probably this. If you go under that, you're going to do what? Lose weight, right? Okay. And so that's why everybody's different, and so that's why you base that on different different sizes of people with fitness levels and those kinds of things there. Some people are very efficient and they don't burn a lot of calories. Their bodies are really, really efficient at using food, using energy there. And so sometimes it's good to be efficient, sometimes it's not so good to be efficient there. So if you're running a mile, you don't want to be efficient, right? You want the lightest shoes and you want everything. You don't want any extra body fat and so forth. You want to be very, very efficient there. You want to lose weight, then you become inefficient, right? And it requires a lot more what?
Work.
A lot more work, a lot more energy there. And so that's like these bicycles. And some of them are like, you lift them like one finger, whatever, you're very efficient there. Okay? If you got the beach cruiser, you're not very efficient, right? And so it's all based upon efficiency there. And so we can look at the total energy expenditure based upon starting with fat food, how much activity we do, and so forth. I've got a video I'll show you sometime later, but this guy named Lieberman, he's at Harvard, and he's a physiologist, and he goes out and studies these different populations throughout the world. He goes to Africa, and he looks at the natives there, and the tribes, and so forth. And he went to this one tribe, and they have to catch all their own food, and so forth. And so, and they eat a lot of honey. And he was looking at diabetes, and how many of them are diabetic in this tribe that eat lots of carbohydrate all day long, lots of sweets all day long, not candy bars, but high carbohydrate stuff. Zero. No diabetics in the whole population or tribe. Okay? Then we look at Alabama. We've got over 500,000 people are diabetic in Alabama. Okay. So what's the difference in the populations there?
Activity level.
Exactly right, activity levels. Okay. And so I'm talking about type 2 diabetes, not type 1, type 2. And so with type 2 diabetes, in certain populations, there's no type 2 diabetes in active populations that are exercising. Because, you take in carbohydrate, then you produce insulin, right? Then the muscle has to take that insulin to break down the carbohydrate. If it doesn't do that, what happens? You get too much what? Carbohydrate, right? And so it's okay to eat sweets and sugars as long as you do what? Do muscle activity to break it down. Okay? And there's a big study with metformin showed that diet and exercise are much better than anything else in order to prevent diabetes. So why do we have 500,000 people in Alabama, and they predict in the next few years 1 out of every 3 people in Alabama will be a diabetic. 1 out of 3. What's wrong with that? I got a good occupation for you. What were you going to say? There's a lot. It was about 4 million people in Alabama. Okay. So, go into prosthetics. You will not be out of work. I have a program at Alabama State. Make artificial limbs. You will make a lot of money, and you will have a good job. So why make artificial limbs? Because diabetics, with diabetes, it decreases the ability to carry oxygen to the cells in the feet and so forth, and they have to come in and they have to amputate. And then the person has to have what? An artificial limb, right? I promise you, if I could buy stock in prosthetics, I'd go buy some right now. Because I know the rate that it's going up, right? One of my friends that built that lab at Alabama State, it's good. It's first class. They only take like 10 a year or something like that. So if you didn't want to be a PT, a lot of engineering kind of stuff and building legs and arms and stuff like that, it's pretty good. Anybody interested in that? Okay, nobody. You're not into prosthetics, I can see that. Okay. So, lipoprotein lipase, and so we have certain enzymes when we take in too much fat, and it increases the fat in the body and tends to make us become obese. Cancer. What the book is doing is giving you a little what? It's giving you a little snapshot of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and so forth related to inactivity, right? And lack of physical activity. Now, as we get going a little further, we'll take like a whole chapter on heart disease, right? So this is just giving you a little introduction on that. Who has a question? You got any questions? Mackenzie, you got any questions? You happy? So yeah, if you read this, you get into something, I just don't understand this, so let me ask him, and you can ask me, and then if I know something about it, I'll tell you. If not, I'll tell you I don't know anything about it. Yeah, there's some new words I learned in this chapter. Things I hadn't seen before. Sedentary physiologist was moved. Inclinometers. What's an inclinometer?
Measures incline.
Yeah, we've used pedometers and accelerometers, but I wasn't familiar with inclinometers. And so, what it does, I guess every time you move or whatever, it measures that. Okay, and so remember, movement. You have to have energy in order to do what? Move, right? In terms of one of the energy systems. And so every time you make a movement, you tend to do what? Burn calories, right? So the key is to do what? Get people moving, right? Get people moving. Get them out of the sedentary stuff. Now, it's not easy, especially now with all this COVID stuff, because people are stuck where? Stuck at home, and the kids are stuck on if I had to go to school doing a computer program, I don't know if I would have made it through there. So, everything's sedentary activity. I've got some grandkids and stuff, and it makes me sick to see what they're doing. But it's your population and your generation. So I think there's going to be a lot of room for work for y'all to help these people. Cardiac rehab is going to do well. The hospital is going to be overrun with diabetic populations. Older populations are going to have sarcopenia, heart disease. Cancers are related to lack of physical activity. All these diseases are related to physical activity. The population that tends to die when they get in the hospital, I've had several friends that have died lately, is because of lack of physical activity or obesity. And so if you don't exercise and you're obese and you get COVID, your chances of survival are much, much less than somebody that's healthy. You athletes, who's had COVID? You don't have to answer that, but were you tired?
No, the only symptom I had was I lost my smell.
Okay.
That's the only way I knew.
Yeah, so I may have had it, and so I had a week I just felt really tired, but I still ran and stuff, but I just didn't have any energy, and so maybe I had it. And, you know, they do the thermometer test, and 40% of the people that have the body temperature have no increase in body temperature, and they're admitted to the hospital. Okay, so that's not a great way to tell. No, and so it picks up some people, but not a lot of people. Traditionally, that 98.6 was based upon 100 years ago in terms of average temperature. Now we know whose temperature is lower than 98.6. Probably most of your temperatures are, right? Okay, and so there again, there's individual differences, right? In terms of temperature, in terms of metabolic rate, and so forth, in terms of different kinds of things. But read that chapter. I think you know, the first exam, I'm pleased with the results. A lot of people did good, and so if you just keep up to date, read the chapters, look up stuff in your book, you should do good on those. And so your next one will be next Sunday, and we'll have I'll throw in a few exercise science questions in there from your notes and so forth, and then most of it's from the book chapters. Make sure you're reading that, keeping up with your information in the book. You should do good. So yeah.
Is it just going to be an exam every week on